For this teacher model and background example video, I'm going to not only kind of show you how I would read and break down this pretty complicated legal document. Legal texts are definitely the most complicated and difficult of primary sources because they use a lot of technical legal government language that people don't really use when they're just talking normally or writing a diary or something like that. So I'm going to show you how I would read this because you're going to do this on your own to kind of break it down and also give you a little background information on why this happened, because that's what we're going to examine in our lesson today too. So first of all, we got to connect to our background information from our last lesson, which is remembering that after the Civil War, a lot of things didn't really change for African Americans, former slaves who are now free, and things with like black codes and restrictions on their right to vote. Kind of the states in the South decided that they were just going to treat freed black people just like they were slaves still. And especially the people in the North, the radical Republicans we looked at in our lesson last week, really were kind of saying, hey, we fought this war to stand up for people's rights. And what's the point in having won the war if it's just going to be that these people are treated like slaves still? So they really wanted to be able to stand up for African Americans' rights and make sure the states of the South couldn't just walk all over them. So they wrote this amendment or change to the Constitution called the 14th Amendment. And I'm going to read this here to you now. A lot of people kind of consider this to be the most important aspect of the entire US Constitution. And it came right after the Civil War as a reaction to the problems of Reconstruction. So before I read it, again, you could read this on your Google form, but I would recommend you go to your Google Doc, which you'll have attached, because again, I've put some vocabulary words in here to make this easier for you. So the thinking steps I'm taking before I even start reading is first, I'm just knowing what kind of source I'm actually reading. Am I reading a news article, a diary, an academic journal, or a legal kind of writing, like a law or a government thing? That's what I'm reading now, a legal document. So I know already this is going to be a little more complicated, and I'm really going to have to take my time with this. Legal documents, you kind of got to take it piece by piece, really slow. So, starting at the top, the following constitutional amendment was approved by Congress on June 13th, 1866, and ratified on July 9th, 1868. So the time period already tells me, again, this is like right during Reconstruction, and the context is this is a reaction to how African Americans are not being treated with equal rights. So starting with Section 1. All persons born or naturalized, which means like a foreigner or immigrant who comes here and becomes part of the country, in the United States, and subject, which means like impacted or affected, to the jurisdiction, which is like control thereof, are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside, which means live. So taking it one step at a time, the first sentence in Section 1. This is essentially saying that all persons that are born or become part of the United States, if you're in the borders, essentially the jurisdiction of their control, that you are a citizen of the United States. So essentially you are automatically a citizen of the country if you are born within the borders of the country. That's the first sentence. So automatic citizenship, for everybody who is born in the country. Second sentence here. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge, which means limit, the privileges, which is another word for rights or immunities, protections, of citizens of the United States. So taking it one sentence at a time again. So now saying that individual states like Georgia or Tennessee cannot make any laws which shall limit or take away people's rights and protections of the United States. So again, we got to remember like the difference between like the federal government, overarching like United States government, and then there's the individual state governments. And so individual state governments cannot create a law that goes against the laws of the overarching United States. So if the United States says everybody can vote no matter what, the individual states like Colorado and Texas and Georgia can't make a state or a law that says, no, they can't. So essentially, everybody gets the same protection no matter what state you're in. So starting again in the second one. Nor shall any state deprive or take away any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So this last sentence here, So any state cannot take away life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. Due process of the law essentially means like a fair chance. You can complain and say when something's been wrong to you. You can go to court, that you can use the legal process to protect you. And last sentence, nor deny to any person within his jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So the laws apply equally to everybody, no matter what, who you are, or anything like that. It's not like some people are seen as more special or favored than others. So looking at this kind of complicated legal paragraph here, which is, again, it's like, oh, legal documents are rough. Again, you got to take it step by step, really small, bite-sized. So first part, if I was like, well, what did Section 1 of the 14th Amendment say? If that was my question, I would be like, well, it says if you're born in the United States, first sentence, then you're automatically a citizen. And then the second part here in the middle, it says that no states can pass laws that take away citizens' rights as they're like federal United States laws. States can't just choose to ignore the laws of the country. And last, no state is going to deprive people or take people away without due process of law, and that you can't create a law that does not give equal protection. So laws apply to everybody. So this really works. Again, looking at what was the reason behind this, to make sure that all people's rights across the country were enforced. It's not like people from different countries or states could have different rights. And this, again, kind of like works to protect people across the country. And you're going to be reading legal documents like this. You're going to have a summary at the end. Make sure you read carefully, really take it step by step, and ask questions if you're confused.